The pen they slid across the table wasn't for signing a contract. It was a weapon designed to sever my claim to their world. My mother-in-law, Eleanor Vance, had a whisper that could shatter glass. She never needed to yell. She had perfected the art of quiet intimidation over decades. It was the calm of someone who has never doubted their own power, a calm designed to remind you that you are merely a guest in her world. My gaze fell on the document beside the apple crisp. 14 pages of legalese, drafted by a high-profile Manhattan firm, meticulously crafted to leave me with nothing should my marriage ever fail. It was printed on thick, textured paper, the kind that costs more than a fast food feast. A gold-plated pen rested beside it, placed with the same deliberate care as the silverware. My husband Daniel was across from me, his eyes fixed on his wineglass like it held the secrets to the universe. He looked like a man trying to disappear into the furniture. His father, Robert, carved his meat with a surgeon's precision, the look of a man who believes he's already won. His sister Victoria was the picture of practiced disinterest, buffing her nails as if the world was beneath her notice. Her husband, Preston, the family's resident legal bulldog, watched me with the detached fascination of a naturalist observing a specimen. This was a Vance family Thanksgiving, the world I married into 3 years ago. At 28, I believed love was an impenetrable shield. I was wrong. Before I reveal what I placed on that table in lieu of my signature, and the chaos that followed, let me ask you, have you ever been the guest of honor at a party where the real entertainment is your own humiliation? If you have, you might relate to this story of a person who was underestimated one last time. Eleanor folded her hands, her voice a velvet blade. Claire, you've always been a pragmatic girl. You understand what the Vance name means. We're not being unreasonable. This is merely a formality. I looked at her. A formality? I echoed, letting the word hang in the air. Robert set down his fork. My grandfather built this legacy from the ground up. We protect what's ours. It's not personal. It feels personal, I said, my voice steady. Victoria finally looked up, offering a smile that dripped with condescension. No one is attacking you, Claire. We're just being practical. Given your background, it seems wise to have clarity. Those 2 words, your background, had been my shadow in this house for 3 years. It meant I came from a humble, blue-collar world. It meant my father was absent and my mother worked double shifts. It meant I wasn't born into a name that opened doors, so I must have been trying to steal one from them. They had never asked what I did. Daniel once mentioned I worked in software, and Eleanor nodded as if I'd said I painted watercolors for a hobby. To the Vances, I was a pretty face from nowhere who had charmed their son and was now a threat to their dynasty. They were smart to be cautious. They were just wrong about which one of us was the chess master. I'm not signing it, I announced. The table went silent. Daniel finally met my gaze, his expression a mix of guilt and dread. Claire, he started. I'm not signing it, I repeated, my calmness mirroring Eleanor's own. I had been practicing it for years. Robert leaned back, a cold smile playing on his lips. Then you need to understand the consequences. I have a call with our attorney at 9 a.m. We'll pursue an annulment on the grounds of fraud. You presented yourself as a woman of modest means. If that was a lie, the marriage is over. An annulment, I said, tasting the word. That's a bold move. Preston cleared his throat. He was the family's hired gun. Claire, we're not trying to humiliate you. We've done our homework. We know your company's reported revenue, $48,000. We are simply looking to protect the family. I looked at Preston for a long silent moment. He had graduated from a top law school, a fact he mentioned as casually as others mentioned the weather. I knew he had been funding a private investment account with Vance family money Victoria didn't know about. That account held a large position in a biotech firm now under federal investigation. He had gotten the tip from an accountant at a firm that, as of last month, was a subsidiary of one of my companies. $48,000, I said. That's what the filing shows. Pull out your phones, I said. Search Valor Systems. No one moved. Please, I added, my tone precise and chillingly polite. Victoria reached for her phone before stopping herself. Valor Systems, I said again. VELAR. I'll wait. Daniel's face changed. He looked at me with a dawning wonder, like he was seeing someone he'd forgotten existed. He picked up his phone and typed. I watched the color drain from his face. What is... He stammered and fell silent. Robert frowned and reached for his own phone. Eleanor watched her husband with the irritated expression of a woman who had never needed to Google anything and resented the implication. Victoria started to type and then froze. Preston's jaw went rigid. Vela Systems wasn't the name on my business cards. It was the parent company, the entity at the top of a complex corporate structure I had built. Not to hide, but because when you build something truly significant, it doesn't need to be obvious to people who aren't paying attention. The last public valuation of Vela Systems, reported by a major financial journal, was $2.1 billion. The entire Vance family fortune, including their sprawling estate and commercial holdings, was about $400 million. I knew this because I had read their financials carefully before I authorized a line of commercial credit to them 2 years ago. They didn't know the credit had come from me. "This isn't," Robert sputtered. "Possible?" I offered. Eleanor's voice remained unnervingly steady. "You've been running this since before you married Daniel?" "I founded it at 24, I said. "The $48,000 is a shell company for admin costs. It has nothing to do with the operating company." I picked up the post-nuptial agreement, holding it like a verdict. "I understand why you did this. You thought you were protecting your family. You thought I had everything to gain and nothing to offer. You thought the math was simple." "How?" Daniel breathed. "I never lied to you," I said. I had told him I had a company. I had told him I was building something. On our third date, eating takeout on the floor of my apartment, I told him I would build something that would last. He had smiled and said it was very ambitious. He didn't ask questions. His family didn't ask questions. They saw me and they saw a category. Categories don't require investigation. "So what?" Victoria snapped. "This was all to make us look like fools?" "I haven't been hiding anything," I replied. "You never asked." A silence fell over the table like a heavy blanket. My mind drifted to a dinner years ago, 2 weeks after our engagement. A welcome dinner, Eleanor had called it. She had pulled me aside into the library and said, "Daniel is generous. He loves easily. It's a vulnerability. This family will always protect itself, and we will be watching." I had sat in my car for 10 minutes after that, thinking about my mother, who had never treated anyone I brought home with such suspicion. I thought about the fledgling team of 7 employees who believed in me. I thought about the 21-year-old version of me, sitting in a cold computer lab at 3 a.m., running a simulation for the 14th time, terrified I was wrong. I thought, they will not break this. They cannot have this. I came back to the present. The silence was still there, but Eleanor's face had shifted. It was no longer condescending, it was calculating. It was the look of a woman updating a spreadsheet. "Well," she said. "There's more," I said, because looking back, I can see that what I did next wasn't entirely clean. It was the calculated result of 3 years of patience finally running out. I reached into my bag and pulled out a manila folder, placing it next to the post-nuptial agreement. 18 months ago, I began, your family took a $12 million credit line to refinance 3 Vance Group properties. The bank was Meridian Capital. In November of last year, I acquired a controlling interest in Meridian Capital. I now hold the note on your credit line. I opened the folder and slid a document across the table. The line is in technical default. The balloon payment was missed. You're 30 days late. Robert stood up. "Sit down, Robert," I said. The calm finality of it made him hesitate long enough to actually sit back down. "You can't," he started. "I'm not calling it," I clarified. "I don't want your business. I have the documentation, and I want everyone at this table to understand what the real math looks like." I turned to Preston. "Since we're doing due diligence, the account you've been running through Trident Advisory received a tip about a pharmaceutical company's drug approval timeline. The source was an accountant at a firm now owned by a Vela subsidiary." I let that sink in. "The relevant files have been forwarded to the authorities." Victoria whipped her head to look at her husband. Preston opened his mouth, but no words came out. "I didn't engineer this," I said to the table. "You called me here. You put that document beside the food. You chose this night. I just came prepared." Eleanor looked at me, her face working overtime. "What do you want?" she finally asked. "I want my husband to look at me," I said. Daniel looked up. "I want you to understand," I said to him, "that I am not doing this to hurt you." I am doing this because I have sat in this house for 3 years and let your family decide my worth. I kept my mouth shut, thinking they would eventually see the truth. That you would. I looked at him. Did you know about the postnup? He looked down. Did you know? I demanded. They told me it was a formality. He whispered. Yes, I said. I heard. We all heard it. 2 sets of headlights appeared on the private road. That would be the compliance team, I said. They're here for Preston. I authorized a voluntary disclosure. Victoria's voice was shrill. You can't do this in our home. He can speak with them here, or they can pick him up on Monday. I advocated for the home option. You're welcome. I stood up. I don't hate you, Eleanor. I'm not doing this out of spite. I'm doing this because you handed me a pen and told me to sign my life away because you had already decided what I was. I let you finish your dinner and say every word you planned because you deserve to hear my response in full. You've made your point, Robert said. I've made a start, I said. The point is this, I never hid from you. You simply never looked. I picked up my bag and looked at Daniel. I'll be at the Whitmore Hotel if you want to talk. Genuine talk, not this. I walked toward the door. Behind me, I heard the front doorbell, Robert standing, Eleanor's low voice, and Victoria sharply saying Preston's name. I didn't stop walking. The November air was invigorating, a welcome cleanse. I passed the first black SUV, receiving a brief nod from an agent in a dark coat. My car was at the end of the driveway, facing out. I got in and started the engine. I sat for a moment, watching the glowing windows of the Vance mansion in my rearview mirror. My phone buzzed, a text from my CFO. All clear on the Meridian docks. Also, the press wants a comment on the Trident story. I typed back, Monday, send flowers to the team. I thought about calling my mother. She would make this feel smaller in the best possible way. I thought about Daniel. The first time I saw him, he spilled coffee on himself in a hotel lobby and laughed without a hint of embarrassment. That was the person I fell for, someone who wasn't performing. I believe he's still in there, somewhere beneath the weight of his family's expectations. Whether he can find his way back isn't something I can do for him. As I pulled through the iron gates, the last image in my mirror was the silhouette of the house against the dark sky, every window alight. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt a deep, specific exhaustion, like finishing a marathon, followed by a profound stillness. That night, I didn't reclaim a seat at their table. I remembered I had never needed one. This case is closed, but the court is always in session. If you believe justice was served, smash that like button for Karma Court Files. We'll see you in the next case.